Hello and welcome to another episode of Steelfur Speaks. In this exciting episode, all of the previews have come out for the Hunted set, and I'm going to take you through what I think about all of them. This could be a bit of a long episode, so strap in. I'm also going to give like a very high level ranking and limited and CC, because I want to come back to that in like a few months time and see where my predictions paid out. This is kind of a year where I want to do more stuff where I'm like setting up for interesting future content, and I feel like this is one thing that might be interesting to do when the Hunted meta is ending, so at the start of the next set, when we go to what I assume is going to be either Monarch 3 or we're going to go to the Savage Lands, or Demon Astray. Those are the three like main contenders, or Pirates. Let's talk about Pirates, but one of those four. When we do that, it might be fun to come back and review this video and ask, were we right in our predictions? First up, we have Schism of Chaos. This is the fabled, only playable by Arachne, who's the only Chaos hero so far. This is like borderline good fabled, right? It's random, so shuffling. It is a dual effect, but as we've learned from stuff like Codex over the years, the difference between putting a card in Arsenal and, say, drawing a card or any of the other fabled effects that are dual-sided, if they have a card in their Arsenal, you get a free card draw and a free shuffle, which you might want, you might not want, depends on how you stacked your deck. So, like, and even, like, late game, this has even more interesting effects, right? Because if you're getting down to, you're playing a fatigue build and you're getting down to a few cards, putting a card into their arsenal that they don't want there is huge. So you might be in a situation where you're playing against a deck that's full of blues and they're really, like, Guardian, for example, and you have a card in your arsenal or you have a high red ratio, so you don't mind. You pitch this, and then for free, you put like a blue Warmonger's Diplomacy or something they don't want to play into their arsenal, and you brick their arsenal for a while. That's really good. And I mean, if you think about, there are some cards that cannot be played from Arsenal, like Tome of Harvest, for example. So if you're playing against those, you might just get a free win on that with this. So I think it is very good. I don't think it's like out of the bat instant include in every Arachne deck. It doesn't block, It is dual-sided, so it's not necessarily going to benefit. I am going to give it 3 for the constructed ranking. But, given that a lot of the... obviously, you're not going to get this in Limited. But given that a lot of the Fableds, don't get a ranking, like get 1 or just unplayable or don't really work, I think that's a fair score to give it. And, I mean, if you think about the previous Fabled, Mistcoat Gully, I would give that a 2. It's actually a really interesting effect when it works, but, can you rely on it? Who knows? Right, let's turn our attention to the Arachnes. So, Arachne Marionette, while you're attacking with stealth, attacking a marked hero, gets +1. When it hits, it gets go again. The beginning of your end phase, your opponent's marked to become a random chaos hero. So this is actually just quite a powerful effect, right? It rewards you for marking heroes and ending your turn, and then it gives you bonuses when they are marked. So it's kind of just saying, please mark your opponent as much as possible, which is just really interesting. The +1 and go again is good. The downside, of course, is that the on-hit is enabling the go again, so your opponent can stop, but then equally, you're playing Assassin, you have tons of attack reactions. You can make this hit if you want to. I think Arachne is potentially going to be one of the decks to beat in Limited, so I'm just going to give him a 4. I think in CC, I'm going to give him a 4 as well. I think this is going to be a very, very playable deck. I keep calling these cards pushed, and I have said before that you can tell when the designers really like a hero versus when they're printing a hero to be more accessible for new heroes. I feel like new players. I feel like Arachne is definitely on the we really like this hero. Web of Deceit is the young version of the same hero. Yeah, absolutely. Black Widow's fine. Target card gets stealth. Banish a card from hand. I mean, that's just a straight 5. I think you're going to be happy to give +3, and I think you're going to be happy to banish a card from hand. That seems like the best one. +3, banish a card in Arsenal. Obviously, that's still good, so it's going to get 4. That's Funnel Web, which is not on here for some reason. Interesting. Which one is on here that shouldn't be? Recluse. Okay, well, let's just do Recluse as funnel web, right? These are the same. Mark this as the same. I didn't make this sheet, by the way. I got it from Fabry, so you can get it. I think it's Syntheros Hunted Deck Sheet Tracker. He does one every set. It's really good. Orb Weaver is the You Get a Dagger, which is all right. Like, she's probably like 3. She's decent enough. Redback is Stealth and Go Again. This one I rank a bit lower just because it's more conditional. Like, by the time you've discarded a card and marked and transformed, you know, are you going to want to also have Go Again? That's a question mark. Now, I give this points. This is also like very greedy as well, right? So you're going to have to keep the attack you want to play, the card you want to discard, and the second attack you want to play. It's very powerful, arguably more powerful than getting a random dagger. But, you know, is it as powerful as like getting an on-hit, banish, arsenal, on-hit, banish, card from hand? Not really. So I think I'm happy giving that a 3. This one is like target dagger gets +3. Not great, but I will say whenever a dagger you own hits a hero, they lose 1. This includes the daggers you throw with flick knives. This is actually a really interesting late game ender. Because you could flick daggers to end the game, essentially, because you'll make them lose 1 and then another 1. And that could be a really nice way to close out a game. If you hit this late game, you know, your opponent never knows when you're going to hit this. Right. They never know how many daggers you're going to throw at them. So they might lose 4 life, you know, just randomly. So they have to stay higher on life than they probably want to. Right? So that's worth considering. That being said, it is more niche, so I think that's the one that gets a 2. And then we've got Trapdoor. Now, Trapdoor is very interesting. I find Trapdoor is actually interesting as a balancing effect on the other 5, right? So the other 5 are all aggressive attacking cards. And because of that, this is like the balance, because this might happen when you want to do a big turn, and suddenly you're like, oh, I can't do a big turn now. So that kind of balances the randomness, which is really interesting. But it also is basically draw a free card. So I think this is really good because it gives you room to not only have a trap to play, which will save you some life and let you keep more cards for your next hand, but it also, of course, gives you the ability to keep more cards in your next hand to keep playing. So I actually think Trapdoor is really good. It's free card draw. The only real issue with it is that you might not want it. You might want more damage. Right, say your opponent's on the ropes and you've taken loads of cards from his hand and he's having a null turn and you flip Trapdoor. You're going to be like, oh, okay, well now I can't put pressure on. So he's a bit negative from that aspect, but the fact that he draws cards is just amazing. So he could be a 3, he could be a 3 to 4. Like, I think he's around that level. Hunter's Knave, this is just a 5 out of 5 straight away in limited and CC. I just think this is fantastic. It's everything that Arachne needs to apply pressure by just saying, look, I'm going to attack you for 1, it has Go Again, if you let it hit, you're marked, and now I'm going to transform and all my horrible effects are on. Right, it's just brilliant. When people saw this, they were like terrified that it would be draftable, and clearly like that is the fear with this. It's not draftable, it's not in limited, but if it was, it would be incredibly powerful, so that's just worth considering. But this is really good. The one thing that I do not like about this personally is that this actually kind of waters down Arachne's uniqueness as an option because it is available to new, right? And actually I would have loved if this was a chaos weapon, and I'm kind of confused that it isn't, right? Because what this actually does is makes all of these mark cards playable in other assassins that aren't Arachne. Right? And I have a problem with that because you'll see as we get down, a lot of the other cards that have been printed specifically synergize within their own Draconic hero, right? So the dagger cards obviously don't synergize with Dorinthia and Bolton as much because they prefer to play non-daggers. And the ninja cards all check Draconic, right? So they don't synergize with other ninja cards. Whereas for some reason, Assassin gets this one card that actually enables all of these brilliant new assassin cards that check for marked to work for older assassin heroes. And I feel like that is just I don't know, that feels wrong to me in some way. It feels like there's maybe a bit of favoritism or a little bit of like tuning the knob. And I get that, like, if you made this chaos, then the other Arachnes like Huntsman and something like that couldn't use it. So I understand the reason that this wasn't made chaos. But I'm also not necessarily going to enjoy watching Azuri and Nu suddenly start playing stuff like Take Up the Mantle, for example. Because the thing is, this is on a weapon. So it's a weapon effect, which means that you can reliably use it, and therefore you can reliably play any mark effect card to get that bonus from it, right? Whereas with other heroes, you can't do the same thing. I just need to turn down my mic for a second. Apologies if you have to turn up the volume. So that's fine. This Mark of the Huntsman is, I mean, it's fairly non. This is what you're going to play in limited regardless. I don't think it makes it into CC. It's kind of 3. It's pretty average. You know, it's a 2-for-2 weapon, but when it hits, you have to blow it up to mark someone. The fact that you have to blow it up is quite expensive, but I guess mark is quite valuable. So, you know, it is worth it. Mark of Deceit, obviously you can't draft it. In terms of how good it is, that's a 5 out of 5 in constructed straight away. Why is this a 5 out of 5? Very, very simple. Traverse the Universe removes the negative effect of having to deal with Transcendence, aka you have to transcend and then get that card back into your deck and then draw it again. Traverse the Universe says, no, you don't have to draw it again. You can have it whenever you like. Mask of Deceit says, as long as you're consistent with marking, you can become an agent of chaos of your choice. So here's this whole mechanic which has balance inherent in it, because not all of the options are equal. You might get Trapdoor when you want something aggressive. You might want Trapdoor and get something else aggressive. You might have destroyed all of your daggers and then you'll get, you know, Tarantula, right? For example, the drawback in this and the balance is in the variety that can come out, right? This says, fuck variety. This says, make the best decision for you once a game. And that is a very powerful effect. I'm not gonna say whether or not I feel it's balanced yet, because it is only once per game, and the turns that are possibly capable with a specific one of these, I don't really know yet. And also I don't think that they are as payoff as Transcendence with Miragai or Transcendence with Zen were. So I think it's not going to have the same problem with balance. But I do dislike the fact that they've made this really fun random effect, and then they've just turned around and said, yeah, but you don't have to play with that randomness at your most dangerous. Like the randomness of Arachne is the most fun when it is the most high stakes situation. Right, I'm just going to bring up my lovely talking assistant here. This is Dashi. Dashi, say hello to everyone. Just sit here now. Okay, or go away. I don't mind. Up to you. But just be peaceful. Thank you. Yeah. So this one says. So for me, the Arachne ability is the most fun when it's the most high stakes, right? And this just says, well, actually, when it's the most high stakes, you don't have to play around it at all. You can just trigger it and do whatever you want, right? And that for me is interesting. I don't necessarily know if it's good or bad. I think it is going to be very good, and I think it is potentially going to be a very powerful effect. I will say, however, and this is kind of important as well in context, is that any headpiece that gets printed has so much competition that they will all be strong. It is the strongest equipment slot in the game. So it's not that surprising that it's very strong, because is it better than Crown of Providence? Well, it has to be better than Crown of Providence. Is it better than Mask of Recurring? Well, okay, Arachne's not going to play Mask of Recurring Nightmares because it requires blue chi. You know, but is it better than Balance of Justice and any of these other ones, right? It has to beat a lot, so it does have to be good. But I think this is, in my mind, this is Traverse the Universe levels of power, which is a bit crazy to see. Kiss of Death, I really like this card because it's a dagger. You can buff it with all your dagger stuff, and you can buff it with all your stealth stuff and all your attack action stuff. You can also throw it at your opponent for some damage with flick knives, which is hilarious as well. This is also another, when I said like, oh, it feels like Assassin is getting a bit developer bias. This is a whole new rules type of card, right? A whole new rules type of card that we only see on the Assassin card, only on this one, and the new rule that was invented just for Assassin in this set. It could have also been on a Ninja card. Ninja has exactly the same flick knives, interactions, but it only went on one Assassin card ever. So they created a whole new rules interaction just for this one Assassin card. Now, maybe they're testing it, but you can see why the indications of a little bit of developer bias towards Assassin are coming through in this set. I don't necessarily say that lightly. I've said it before, it's been with Illusionist, and I think it's been pretty clear that Illusionist has gotten a lot of very fun card designs and like whole other archetype designs and things like that other classes don't have access to. I think this card is just like an absolute bomb. I think the fact that you can throw it is great. I think it's going to be in CC. I think maybe in 4 in Limited because you can have less ways to throw it, but it could easily be a bomb. Under the Trapdoor, 0 for 1 stealth. Always like a 0 for 1 stealth. Discard this, banish target trap card from your graveyard. You can play it this turn. That's a bit weaker, so we're going to get that a 3. It's still good because you might have a trap you want to play, but it is a little bit weaker. And but you could. The thing is, one of the reasons I like it, it's going to get a lower score in constructed. Well, I was watching the stream earlier and I was like, actually, they do have a lot of defense reactions, but we don't know how many of those are traps. So I'm going to put it there because it requires very specific synergy that you might not get. I've seen a lot of the other traps are Majestics, so it's probably not that valuable in Limited. In Classic Constructed, it's very flexible. It's a blue. I could easily see you putting this in your deck as just a blue and then getting some value from it, but it's not going to be the powerhouse card. Take Up the Mantle. I'm just going to slam a 5 here for Constructed. Anyone who can read will be able to understand why it gets a 5. But basically, take any Assassin card, as long as you've got marked, you can replace it with any from your graveyard. So you can play an extra copy of your Bonds of Agony, or etc, etc. And those check how many attack reactions have been played. So this should count towards those as well. So it's just really, really good. In Limited, it's probably not. It's probably like a 3 or a 2. Then again, it can get you back the best red you've played this game. So it probably does come in higher, right? It's a 0 for 3 block. It gives you +2 or +3. And it can get back any attack you want. So, yeah, that's fantastic. Tarantula Toxin is just a 5 out of 5. I think that goes in. I can see that fitting in. That people were playing Shred in Classic Constructed. I can see that fitting in. Like, it's just so good. +3, -3. It's a 0 for 6, basically, if they block. And you have that stealth. There's a stealth dagger, isn't there? This one. Yeah. So maybe in Limited, it's a 5 out of 5, but it's a 5 out of 5 because it's flexible. And then in CC, it's a 5 out of 5 because if you stack it with Kiss of Death, you can make a 2-card 9. Right? Maybe that's how it works out. Just so 5 out of 5 for slightly different reasons. Anaphylactic Shock is a trap. It doesn't block, so that does lose points for me. But I do like that A, it can clear a board of Ash Wings, which will be relevant at some point, and B, that it, again, we're talking about a combination of things that increase the threshold of the life that you can lose against Arachne and feel comfortable, and this adds to that, right? It is only lose 1 life, which isn't traditionally very strong. But if you have one of those in your deck coupled with Arachne Tarantula, suddenly the amount of life your opponent has to be on is 3 instead of 1. Right? So you start to build up the amount of life threshold. Do I think this is very good? I don't actually. I don't think it's going to see that much play because it doesn't block. It is more there targeted against, I think, Ash Wings or maybe against... I don't know if it even works on Ward because they don't have life. It feels more like an Ash Wing clearer. Which kind of gives you the impression that Dromai will be back soon, maybe in an Armory deck, who knows. In Limited, it's a little bit of a bomb because at 20 life, the ability to take off one of your opponent's life points and close the game is good, and I probably would play it if I opened it. I probably would draft it if I was already on Assassin. It wouldn't push me into Assassin. I'm going to give it a 2 just because I think it's a bit awkward, but I could definitely see it being better. Because you could win games with this, right? You could win games with this, and that's really good. Bite feels like a 3. It feels like a staple card. The yellow's probably like a 1, because, I mean, why do you want yellows? In Classic Constructed, you might actually end up playing it just to, like, trigger your daggers. But I have a suspicion that, like, Arachne's not going to be throwing his daggers as much as he could. Like, when I was playing Syndra, for example, every turn I was throwing a dagger of some description. I don't know if Arachne's going to be throwing daggers quite as much. I think the blue's pretty good, though. The blue will help you close out a game and will block, so we can give that 3. Probably 2. You're probably not going to put this in as one of your blues. But it's an interesting option, right? It's an interesting option. To remember that if you throw Hunter's Clave, then it will mark even if they did block, so you might play this, but Hurl didn't see much play. So I'm not sure. I mean, you're probably going to throw stuff with Flick Knives if you need to. You probably won't include that. But in Limited, it seems fine. This is a 0 for 3 that gets you a dagger. Can we just remind ourselves what the dagger does? So it's a 0 for 1. While it's attacking a marked hero, the attack gets go again. Right, so it's all right. This is a 0 for 4, basically. So that's probably good. We'll probably give that a 4 as a 0 for 4. And I like the fact that I actually think it gets more stocks than the other attack does. Because if you mark someone, the mark already goes away when they get hit. So you can, essentially, let's just remind ourselves what mark does. It should be down here somewhere. Yeah, you are marked until your opponent hits you. So, like, when this attacks is a really powerful effect. Because basically this is always a 0 for 4 if they're marked. You do have to think of a way of getting go again, which is tricky, but there are lots of ways to do it. But your opponent basically has a choice, right? So they either, you know, they can block it, get rid of the mark, and then block it, don't get rid of the mark, but you're still going to get that token, but the token won't have go again. Or they can not block it, take 1 damage, get rid of the mark, then the dagger loses go again. It's just really nice. It's a really nice effect. Does it make it into CC? I'm just going to put a solid 3 there. I'm on the fence on that. I don't know the value of this token in CC. I don't think it's going to be that high. I don't know how much you're going to be making Graphene Chelicas except from this ability. And also it's a 0 for 3 with no other added benefit. And there are so many strong stealth attacks, like Backstab, for example. You know, there are so many other strong ones that I just don't see that this gets value. Stains of the Redback, target stealth attack gets +3 and go again. Costs 1 less to play. +3 and go again is already good. Like, this is brilliant. I think this is really good in thing. Is it good in Classic Constructed? Is it good in CC? Would you just play Razor Reflex so you always get the go again? Maybe you would, but I could see this fitting in somewhere. I'm going to give it a 2. I don't think it's going to see much play. I don't think the red's going to see much play. The blue actually could be good. This is like a 2. It's not terrible. It's not great. I think the blue could actually be decent because you just get +1 go again and it blocks 3. Again, it's kind of the same thing in Constructed. It could be all right, but it's like, that's probably a 3. That's probably a 2. Orb Spinneret gives you a dagger, gives you +3, so it's a 0 for 4. That's pretty good. You know, even the blue is like a 0 for 3. They're all pretty good, actually. In CC, you might play it just to get a dagger. Free attack with marked. But the main reason to get this dagger, like if we remind ourselves what it does, it's just to throw it at people, right? I mean, it's not like overtly exciting, is it? It's just like, oh, I have an extra dagger now in my offhand. If you even have an empty offhand, right? One of the reasons I don't rate these dagger cards that highly is that, are you going to be keeping a spare offhand as an assassin player, or are you just going to wait and, you know, keep 2 good daggers there, right? That's a big question, I think. But if you are going to lean into that, I think it could be interesting. But, you know, we'll give this as a 0 for 4 buff. I think it could see play. I don't think any of the other colours see play. Maybe the blue sees play. Backstab I'm not going to rate because it's a reprint. Defang the Dragon. These are like... I think these are actually pretty good in Limited. Just because it's draw a card. But then again, it's like, who do you know who you're going to play against? These are like a late draft, I think, maybe. Or if you know that there's a good player who's drafting a specifically good one. These don't see play in CC at all. Unless like one of these is killing the format. Mark of the Black Widow, that's potentially a 5, right? I mean, you're demanding a block. Probably 5-4, probably 5-3-4 or something like that. You're like demanding a block, and if they don't block correctly, then they lose. I think even in that, it's still a 5 in blue and in thing. I mean, yellows or whatever, no one's going to play them, but I think these are good. I think Mark of the Funnel Web is like probably the same pattern, but like one lower. Like, as in, it's actually probably quite valuable to be able to banish from Arsenal with just a regular attack, as long as you've marked them. But I don't know if it's as impactful in CC, because it's less like they have to have an Arsenal. Actually, I think in CC I rate it slightly higher because people are very good at storing Arsenal, so I might just keep that a little bit there. The blue's probably a 3 if we're being honest. So yeah, that's all right. Mark the Prey when it hits. Mark them. I think that's decent in draft or limited. I don't think it's particularly good in CC. I think you're going to want to use the dagger to mark. So we'll just give that 1s across the board, really. I don't really rate that. A 0 for 3 with stealth. If it's attacking mark hero, gets +1. That's quite good. Yeah, it's not really that good in other colours. I don't really see you putting it in. Maybe you can put it in like blue, but I don't really see you putting it in any other colours. Like, I mean, why would you really? Reaper's Call is interesting. It's a 0 for 3 stealth card. This is good because it just marks, which is kind of important as an instant. And we have seen that those enablers like not lead with agility. You know the ones. Discard a card, make an agility token. Those see play. So if this card is instant to create and turn on your most powerful effects, that's pretty good. So I actually rate this quite highly, I think, in both. I could easily see it just being like a 4 across the board. And I could even see it making its way into Classic Constructed. Just as a way to be like, no, I'm turning on my mark, thank you. Which I think would be quite impactful. When this hits a marked hero, it gets go again. When it attacks a marked hero, it gets go again. I think that's a pretty solid 4. I don't think you're necessarily going to want the yellow. It's not terrible. Does it go into CC? I just don't see it going into CC, really. I just don't see it. I just don't see a card like this making its way into an assassin deck in CC. I think you can see very clearly the things I'm saying, hey, this is good in CC. This is a direct enabler for your key hero ability without any interaction from your opponent. That makes it potentially quite good. This is banish a card from hand in a class with loads of attack reactions. This is Arsenal control in a class with loads of attack reactions. This is like +3 this is a 0 for 4 in an attack action, and you get a dagger, right? So it's like there's value there in this, and like, so that's the sort of cards I'm rating higher on my potentially good in CC list. Razor's Edge, I mean, in limited you want to take Razor's Edge. I think it's actually like a solid 4. It's already in a set. I think the same is true with Backstab as well, by the way. I think it's a solid 4. There seem to be a lot of defense reactions in this step, so getting rid of any of them is not like a problem. This dagger is fine. I don't know if we even rate it. I mean, it's good. You want to get this dagger. I'm going to put a question mark next to it in CC because I have no idea how deep it will go. No, we're not copping out with a question mark. Let's put an actual prediction. I'm going to say that this dagger doesn't crop up in CC except through the hero ability, and it's just not that valuable. I think in limited it probably has a bit more play. 2 sides to the blade. Choose one. Target dagger attack gets +3. Target attack action with stealth gets +3 when it hits a hero. Mark them. That's actually quite good. I don't think it's like perfect, but I think it's actually pretty good. Does it make it into CC? It could. Like, it's essentially, if it makes it, it'll be the same reason as Reaper's Call does. It turns on marked consistently in a way that lets you play with all of your cards. And I mean, we've seen stuff like Slither and Hiss make their way into CC for that exact reason. They enable powerful effects with a bit of modularity. Having this in your deck lets you attack late game with a dagger and be like, well, are you taking 4? Do you know you're taking 4 or not? I think that's a pretty solid card, actually. I might even say it's a bit higher a bit lower no, I actually think it's about the same. Hunter or Hunted. So this is a trap, assassin trap. When this defends and the attacking hero is played or activated in attack reaction in this chain link, they lose 1. Again, I quite rank highly like pop surprises in limited. I don't think it makes it into CC. I don't think it's strong enough as 0 for 3 when there's so many 0 for 4s. But in limited, as we're quite low and I'm making you lose an extra 1, I think I like it. I think that's pretty strong. So let's move over to Draconic Ninja. Syndra, I'm just rating as like 5 out of 5. I don't know how she is in limited, so I'm going to say like 4. But I find she's just... I've played her once or twice. I just think she's... Okay, let's not say 5. Let's say 4. I don't think she completely comes together in like the way that Zen did, but I think she's fun and strong, which is very good. Her weapon is actually a lot of fun and I think quite powerful. I don't know how much you get it off in draft or limited, but I think given how much Go Again exists in the set, you probably will find yourself replacing these daggers quite a lot. And if you can replace them every other turn or every turn, that is good, right? And like I've played the deck once or twice and I've found myself holding a blue until the end of turn just to start my next turn with daggers, all that kind of stuff, you know? So it's interesting. Blood runs deep. Throw both your daggers at the opponent. I don't actually like it that much. So let's talk about why I do like it and why I don't like it. Right? So fundamentals. Obviously, you're going to throw this and destroy your daggers. It works best when you've attacked with those daggers already. So the play pattern for this makes it a 0 for 6, right? Because what you're going to... Well, it makes it a 2 for 6. Because what you're going to do is attack with both of your daggers, not close the combat chain at all, of course. Play this, comes in for 2, and then you throw the daggers, and then you deal another 2. And then the daggers get destroyed, and then before you close the combat chain, you're going to rebuy them with Syndra. So this is good because it lets you use your daggers to attack, and then also rebuy them on the same turn. That makes it a good card. It probably makes it a 4 or a 5 out of 5 in Constructed. In Limited, it's probably just a bomb. It's a 0. It's a 2 for 6. You do have to pay for the daggers, but it's it's quite a lot of damage spread out, hard to block. Late game, this is going to be very, very strong. So I think it's quite good. The only reason I don't like it is just that you will have to pitch. You will have to start with something. Get things going. This isn't a good 2-card hand. Now, Ninja does not play 2-card hands, but it is quite a greedy card, which makes me not like it as much as I could. And as a 2 for 2, if you can't do any chain links or you don't have daggers, this is a brick card draw as well. So that's where it starts to feel a bit painful, and I don't really like it as much. But when this sings, it does really well, and that's classic for Ninja as well. Ignite seems all right. It's a 0 for 3. Assuming the next thing you do is a dagger, right? In Constructed, this is a 5 out of 5 because the next thing I do is not going to be a dagger. It's going to be a Mounting Anger, or it's going to be a Engulfing Flame Wave. Maybe not Engulfing Flame Wave, but it's going to be something that costs 1. And this is going to be turned into from a 0 to 2 to a 0 for 7. It's going to be really good. How many of those effects you get will determine how good this is in Limited, but I think it's probably a 5 out of 5 in Limited as well. There's a lot of cost variation in terms of, like, even the next card costs 1. There's a lot of cost variation, Blood Drop and things like that. And it could even let you play something like Blood Runs Deep or something like Wrath of Retribution without getting 2 chain links, right? So this, for example, would turn this into a only requiring 2 chain links, for example. And the same with this. This would turn this into only requiring 1 extra chain link to play. And you wouldn't have to rely on your daggers to build it up. So Ignite's just a great card. Demonstrate Devotion. The 1 for 4, go again. When it attacks, make a fealty token. That's like... You can see my Ninja bias. That's easily a 4 out of 4 card. It might be a 5 in a limited. It's a 4 because it's just cost 1. But we don't know yet how like low to the ground, how like Cheerios Syndra is going to run. I suspect she'll be pitching a blue every turn. I don't think she'll be avoiding pitching blues. So I think she's going to be pitching a blue at least every turn, which makes cards like this quite good. Display Loyalty is a 0 for 3 go again that makes a fealty token. This is actually potentially a 5 out of 5, to be honest. Fealty is really important for Syndra. You can see it here. We bring up the card. Not because of this. Sorry, fealty is really important in just because there's really powerful cards that check Draconic, like Art Dragon Blood, for example. So getting it consistently. And this, all it does is check chain links to make fealty. So it's really good. And also fealty lets you cheat. So if you don't have 2 chain links, you can play this and go again from the fealty. So fealty is really good. I think those are 2 really strong cards. Wrath of Retribution, also a 5 out of 5. You're going to turn it on really good. It's so good, it's legendary. I've done some really powerful turns with this, right? It's on its face, it's a 0 for 7 because you play it for free. Obviously, you've already done some stuff on your turn. You play it for free, so you attack with, say, here's a plan. You attack with Ignite, then you follow up with a Ronin Renegade, then you follow up with a Wrath of Retribution, then you attack twice with your daggers for 2 and 4, and then you play Blood Runs Deep, and you throw those 2 daggers. The daggers get destroyed. You've dealt, we could do the maths, it's 2, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 damage, and then you buy back your daggers for free. It's a pretty good turn, right? And that's only a 4-card hand. It's pretty good. If you added something from Arsenal, something like, say, no, I mean, we're talking constructed, but if you added something like a Salt the Wound, for example, you'd be looking at a very, very good hand, right? Very, very good. So that's really good. Blood Drop is pretty crap. It's a 1 for 2. Could be a 0 for 2. It's like undercosted. Its only benefit is that it has Go Again. It's kind of bad. This is alright as a 0 for 3, but it starts too late. This is not seen playing constructed, by the way. Burning Blade Dance actually comes back up again. I like it. It gets it Go Again from its own ability, and it lets you throw your dagger. The reason that throwing your daggers is so important is that it lets you attack with the dagger for 1, throw the dagger, and destroy the dagger before the combat chain ends, which is super important because Syndra's ability only lets you rebuy them for free while you have active Draconic chain links. So you do need to destroy them before the chain link ends. So this actually gets a 4, I think. And I do think it will actually see playing constructed as well. So I could see it being like a 5 in limited, and I could see it being a solid 3, like a staple in constructed. Skin Devotion, it's like a 3. It's all right. But it's a 1 for 4. Everything else in the set is already doing something for 1 for 4. But it's better than like Blood Drop and Bloodline. I'm actually going to drop those down to 1. They annoy me. They're so crap. Yeah. Skin Devotion's better than that. It's a 3 in constructed as well. Maybe even a 2. Like, you're just not going to play something that doesn't have some text now. That costs 1. Right? Ronin Renegade's different because it's a starter. This is I have to pitch and it's not a starter and it costs 1. It's not as good. Dust Runner Outlaw's actually even worse because it costs... Oh, it's still a 1 for 4. Ah, okay. Dust Runner Outlaw is actually slightly better than... Sorry, just gonna... Honestly, dogs will be the death of me. Dust Runner Outlaw's kind of the same. It's slightly better because it's like... It's not a chain like finisher. It's a starter, so it's quite good. The only reason they're kind of on parity is that this blocks for 3. Whereas this blocks for 1. So you might play this if you don't have enough Go Again. And like, it's worth drafting as a 1 for 4 that gets your chain started. Because remember, all of these cards that check for 2 or more Draconic chain links, they count themselves. So you do need 1 card with Go Again to get started. So you're going to need these Ronin Renegades and these Dust Runner Outlaws. And if you don't draft them, you're going to have problems with consistency. And that's also why these exist, by the way. I don't like them. I think they're weak. But they exist for draft so that you will have enough Go Again in the pool Though that if you can't get the preferred, which is the Ronin Renegades, then you get the others. And also, I should say, they do block 3, which means they are actually quite good to draft for blocking as well. So I still don't like them, and they're still not making it into any constructed deck I build, but maybe 1 is a bit harsh, and maybe they should just be 2s, because they have that block value in their favor. Hot on their heels. Go again, and when this hits a hero, mark them. All right, it's a 0 for 3, conditional go again, so it kind of probably going to get like a 2. But the fact that it does mark maybe does push up to a 3. I don't see, like, I mean, I know Syndra's ability does check for marked, but I don't know that I see you running this in constructed. Then again, I will say this. You might just put it in as a 0 for 3 go again. Maybe. I'm going to give it a 2. I'll give it a 3. It's slightly better than these. This is even worse than CC. Let's not mark that. Let's put those both down to 1s. You're probably not playing either of those. But you know, I'll give it a 3. It could be playable. It does block 3. Lava Vein Loyalty, I figure, is a 3/3 kind of card. It's maybe a little bit worse than the previous because it just gives go again, doesn't give mark. But it's all right to draft as well. Like, when you're drafting Syndra and you're playing limited, it seems very much like you're going to be grabbing enough go again to make your abilities work, then grabbing enough synergy with go again to have big turns and powerful turns, and then trying to grab enough things that throw your weapons so that you can get value out of your weapons, right? Mark with Magma is a slightly more expensive version of that. Again, it all depends really how much you end up pitching. I like the breakpoint on this, so I think it kind of gets the same score as Hot on Their Heels, just because you could play this for the breakpoint. And while this is free, so it's good, this has a breakpoint, which makes it good as well. Ronin Renegade, I mean, you want Chain Starter, so that's an easy 4. It was in a lot of Phi decks. It's probably going to be in a lot of Syndra decks as well. Pretty consistent. Art of the Dragon Blood is a 0 for 4 go again if you have fealty. So if you can set up a fealty, it's a 0 for 4 go again that makes your next 3 Draconic cards -4. I'm just going to give this a 5. In limited, maybe it's like a 3. It's a 0 for 4 as a Chain Ender, maybe a 4. I think in constructed it's genuinely a 5. I think it's really going to be a powerful card. I think it lets you play a lot of fun effects like Wrath of Retribution on cheap. I think it lets you play a lot of fun things like Mounting Anger quite consistently as well. Maybe some of these other things. And also one of the things I like about it is that if you built up enough fealty, then you could have an Art of the Dragon Blood into, say, an Art of the Dragon Fire or Claw, and just have a very strong but also like affordable turn. So I think like if you do like Art of the Dragon Blood into like Dragon Power, and you have 2 fealty, that's like really good. It's really good. Devotion Never Dies is just like 5 out of 5. This is an insane card. It doesn't need to be Draconic. It just comes back. So you can kind of like Draconic weave with this. So you could say play your Ronin Renegade, play Devotion Never Dies, Devotion Never Dies comes back. Then you're going to play your Lava Vein Loyalty. Then you're going to play Devotion Never Dies again, Devotion Never Dies comes back. Then you're going to play Burning Blade Dance. Cool, that's 4 cards. Devotion Never Dies comes back, and then you play it again. Right? Assuming you've pitched, right? You have to pitch for all of these, but you know, in Classic Constructed, you're going to be pitching. I think even in Limited, it's so easy to set up this card. Prowess of Agility is interesting. I think in Limited, it's too easy to disrupt, but still powerful, just too easy to disrupt. In Classic Constructed, I think you can set it up, and it will be a big piece into certain decks. I don't know where that fits in yet, but I predict that it will be quite strong. Art of the Dragon Claw is a worse version of Breaking Point, so like in Constructed, it's probably not going to see play. In Limited, though, I think it's quite good. Like if you're getting fealty, you may as well use it. You need to spend it, and you can spend it on Go Again, on something like this, or you can spend it to just do some powerful stuff. Like you're going to get fealty, you should be aiming to get fealty. So, you know, you should be using it on these, and I think they are all good. Art of the Dragon Fire, again, I rate it quite highly just because 2 damage is great. Not sure if it makes it into constructed. Same with Art of the Dragon Scale. They're all kind of the same. They're all 1 for 5s. They all have pretty good effects. Do they make it into constructed? Maybe. This is all really dependent on what's going on, right? This is good, but you probably want to play Lava Vein Loyalty instead. This is good, but you might play Breaking Point instead. This is kind of unique, and you know, there are equipment that Ninja does want to destroy, so I might actually give that an extra point and just say, look, if there's an equipment Ninja want to destroy, then that actually might be good, because it is going to be a chain ender, which is good. Dragon Power seems like it's a 5. It just seems great. And I'm going to go as far to say it's a 5 in blue as well. It's a 1 for 5. Might even be decent enough in thing. Does it make it into constructed? I don't think it does. We don't know how consistent the fealty generation is. If it's super consistent, then the red makes it in. The yellow probably never does. And the blue maybe, but I don't think it will. I think there's already like not that enough, like plenty of blues. Silver Talons just looks good. I think it gets a 4. It's a chain ender, but it's a 0 for 4 chain ender. I don't think the other two are particularly worth playing as much, but that's all right. I think Silver Talons in constructed, I actually could see the red making it in, and I could even see the blue making it in, but I don't think that's going to make it in at all. When this attack, your next Draconic attack gets +1, so that's a 0 for 4, go again. That's pretty good. It kind of becomes much worse as we get down the tiers, because it turns into a 0 for 2, go again, etc, etc. It doesn't even block that well. In constructed, you're going to play a 0 for 4, go again with little synergy. It's not Draconic. Probably not going to play it just because it's not Draconic. And you kind of need Draconic. Grow Claws, I kind of like that for draft as well, and limited. The yellow is kind of okay. It comes in as a 1 for 4 as well. Yeah, maybe I rate this a little too harshly because it can bump up something else. Yeah, in constructed, I'm just not. I'm rating these all the same. I just don't think they see play in constructed. You know, I want a 1 for 5 go again, yes, but I also need Draconic chain links, right? And this isn't one, and I'm not going to spend a fealty to make it one. 0 for 3 go again is all right. I don't like it as much as the other ones. I think that's just like a solid 2s across the board. I just don't see that as being particularly good, because you're going to have, well, okay, actually, let's think about this again. It doesn't have to be Draconic itself. So it is just a 0 for 3 go again that checks your last chain link. So that actually could be a little bit better. So maybe we give it a 3. Again, I'm not sure it makes it into constructed, but you know, it could, because it blocks 3. So actually, I could give the red a 3 as well, because it does block 3. It might make its way in. Tag the target. No, I don't think that's that's going to be, you don't have enough mark and you need some more mark. Get rid of it. Trap and release is the same, but it's a 1 for 4, so breakpoint. So maybe we'll give that an extra point. I still don't see it making its way into constructed. I don't see the other colours making their way into constructed either. How are we doing? We're 2/3 of the way through, guys. Okay, we're doing well. Let's talk then about warrior cards. Where are the warrior cards hiding? Here we go. So. Hunt's End is not on this list because it's Draconic Warrior. Here we go. Right, Obsidian Fang is a really solid ability. He just says whenever you hit a marked hero, create a fealty token, so the same as Syndra. If you have 3 or more, dagger cost 1 less. So that's really good because you just kind of build them, don't necessarily spend them, whereas Syndra is going to be spending them as much as possible. Discounts on weapons are always good. I think he's a pretty solid 4 out of 4 hero ability as well. I think he's really good in limited. I think he'll feel very consistent. Obsidian Fire Vein is a 1 for 1, which isn't great, but it does turn into a 1 for 2. And obviously, that's all you need. I think this is a solid 3 or 4. Probably a 4 and then like a 3. Hunt's End is like 5 out of 5. I mean, it's like really good. Yeah. It synergizes with your hero ability perfectly. There's zero confusion. Long Whisker Loyalty fits the same category. It's like 5 out of 5. You're going to have Draconic chain links. You're going to have at least 2 from both of your daggers, and then you're going to attack more times. So it's going to feel great. Affirm Loyalty is a +2 and helps you get fealty. I think that's pretty much essential. It's probably pretty key in CC as well. Endear Devotion, again, probably the same category. You need to be making... Because like what you're going to do basically is swing your first dagger. You're going to play a Draconic card. So you're going to play anything, right? You're going to play 0 for Go Again. You're going to play something that gives you Go Again. Or you're just going to keep one of these attacks. And then you're going to play... You're going to attack once with anything... Attack with Obsidian Fire Vein, buff this, get a fealty token, and then soon you're going to have 3 fealty tokens. Things are going to be great. Fire and Brimstone, again, I mean, all of these legendary ones are just 5 out of 5. They're really good, really important. Blistering Blade, I mean, yeah, lots of 5 out of 5s coming out here. Brothers of Flame's a little bit harder to play, so I think it will lose a point. Probably doesn't make it into Constructed as consistently. There are other weapon buffs. Dynastic Dedication just says your second dagger attack gets a 0 for 3, so I think that's pretty good as well. But not as good as the previous 2, maybe doesn't make it into Constructed. Imperial Intent, target dagger gets +2, it's weaker. I think we're losing points here, really. The dogs are kicking up a fuss tonight. Scalding Iron, I kind of like this as just like a payout, but you're not, you're not putting a 0 for 2 into your constructed deck, so that's there. This is interesting. Like if you can go super wide, it can be super cool. I think it's more like 3. I could see it going into some constructed decks though, so I might put that up to a 3 there. Marking seems like it's kind of important, so I think we're going to put that fairly high, maybe a 3. Probably makes it into some constructed decks. It's not that fun. Sisters of Fire. Player and you can tow 2 or more chain links +3. So that's like +3 for 0. So I think that's probably can be rated a little bit higher. Sizzling Steel. I mean, that's a 3. That's probably a 4. This is probably a 4 as well. I could see that easily fitting into a deck as it's really powerful. Stabbing Pain is a 1 for 3 with Mark. It's all right. It's all right. Kabuto is mixed. Like, I think it's... I mean, firstly, it doesn't matter in draft because you're not going to get it. But I think it's like a 2 or a 3. I think it's good. But, again, like, helmets have a lot to do. But, sorry, the dog is eating... What was my dinner? No. No. She's very cute, but she's also very obsessed with food. Jagged Edge is great. Yeah, we're going to put that... I mean, I don't know if it's draftable. Give it a 3 in draft because it's a 1 cost and there's other stuff it's going to be doing. But I think it gets a 4 in constructed. I think it goes into a lot of places. Provoke is really good. Yeah, that's like a 4 and a 5. Sharpen Senses is basically the same as Shift the Tide of Battle, isn't it? Weapon attacks get +1. If it's great in their base, they get Go Again. Destroy it. I think that's pretty solid as well. Give that a 4. I think it could slot into... It could slot into constructed decks, though again, you might just play something like, one of the ones that gives your next attack +1 and the next attack +3 and Go Again, that kind of thing. Target dagger attack is +1, so Diced is pretty strong. Again, there might be better options in constructed, but it is pretty good. Even the yellow is like pretty solid. I don't think it's pretty good after that, and it doesn't block, so I think after that it kind of falls off, but I think the yellow is also pretty decent as well. Twist and Turn seems quite good. Like being able to use your weapon again is pretty good, and I think that can keep it like relevant through all the colors. In constructed, I think even then it might be relevant. I think it could be hard to get it in there, but I think the fact that it says you may attack with it an additional time this turn is actually a very powerful effect for warriors specifically, that could see them playing a couple of copies of this, just because the dagger already has Go Again, and then you can kind of like use this to do a lot of damage. Agility Stance is bad. It's all right. Like, I get why it exists. Basically, agility stance exists because you have 2 obsidian fire veins, and if you don't have a card to play, then you can't attack with them. So I get it, but I don't think it's good. Flurry stance, destroy this, you may attack. Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah, being able to use your daggers again is pretty good. That's probably like a 3 or a 4. In Constructed, I think it might earn a play, but I really don't know about putting power towards next turn. Power stance is... yeah, power stance is alright as well, actually. I think it's pretty decent. Again, I don't think it makes it into Constructed. I just don't think it's good enough. And people, like, pushing power towards next turn is something we become more comfortable with heavy hitters, but I don't think it necessarily works as well. I think you're probably going to set up and then have one of these cards to work into the setup, but I don't think it works as well. 0 for 4 is pretty solid. I could see that even making it into Constructed, though would be better if it had an ability. 0 for 3 is still pretty good. Probably doesn't make it into Constructed, probably falls off then. I'm fine with +2 that blocks 2, but I think it comes out. This is Cut Deep. Hunter Killer. Your next dagger attack is +4 mark. Yeah, so that's good. Probably still good even down here just because it's like marking. It might even be more valuable in Constructed just because it brings that mark ability in on a reasonably good buff, which also blocks 3. Knife Through Butter. Next dagger gets +4, so we can rate that reasonably highly. Whenever you attack a marked hero this turn, that attack gets go again. That could be good. It's actually one of those effects that could be better in Constructed than it is in Limited. I don't really know how much we're going to get those big drafts going in, but the giving an attack go again is good, and the fact is every attack you do that turn is pretty good. So, like, even if the hero's marked, right, and you attack with your first dagger, you can give that first dagger go again. So actually I think the stocks on this might move up even more in Constructed. Point of engagement. Dagger attack gets +3, your attack gets +1. That's pretty good as well, actually. It's like consistent buffs, and that's one that actually is good in other colours as well, because it's going to give you some decent buffs. Does it make it into Constructed? Unsure, maybe. I'll give it a 3. Your next dagger attack +3 when it hits a hero, mark them. I think we've already decided that's a reasonably strong effect, though it isn't as good as this. Sworn Vengeance. Where's the other one? Cut Deep. No, Hunter Killer. It's not as good as that. But that costs 1. This costs 0. So actually it's probably kind of the same. We might rate that the same. The cost is different from the breakpoint as well, so that's fine. Then we have Draconic, normal Draconic stuff. So, Dragon Scalar Flight Path is not on here. No, it is. It's there now. No dinner for you. She's already had her dinner. Obviously not in Limited. This is good in CC. I think it's like a solid 4 stars. It's obviously going to be really fun in like Dromite and something like that, but it's also quite deceptively good in Ninja. And stuff like that. What it does is let you give go again to any Draconic attack. And obviously if you have fealty, you can actually use this to give go again to any attack, because you just pop a fealty and this at the same time. So it's a really interesting like combo piece that could let you do crazy stuff. Now there's going to be some situations where Snapdragons is better, but if you think about when you might be triggering this Draconic attack, you might be doing it to say play the second Lava Burst or something like that. It's going to work quite well at the end of that chain. Personally, I see this and I'm like, okay, I'm going to use fealty to give E-Strike Draconic, and then I'm going to use this to give E-Strike go again, right? And I'm pretty happy with that outcome. Also, you might end up playing it with the Ember Blade and Ninja, which could be good. In Warrior, I think it speaks for itself. You're going to use your dagger again. Your dagger's going to have a lot of buffs on it that turn. And it's going to come in again. In Dromite, it's pretty solid. I think it's just a solid 4, maybe even a 5. It looks great. All of this stuff looks good. Mark target Arachne, beat up target Arachne. This all actually looks pretty strong effects. Obviously, you have to target Arachne, but it's worth drafting those because they have Blade Break 1 anyway. I think they're really good. I'm actually going to give those all 4. I think they're actually pretty decent. Coat of Allegiance, 1 resource. I think that's pretty good as well, actually. We're making good progress. Oath of Loyalty. I really like. I don't think it's a 5 out of 5 in either of the things, but I could easily see it being like a 3, maybe a 4 even. It is a 0 for 4 go again, but you don't want to get stymied by not having the right. I think in constructed it's a 4 again. It might brick a hand, but it also could be amazing. Loyalty on the grave, obviously in limited that's a 1 because you might not get enough of them. In CC it's a 5 into the right decks, right? Because late game you're going to have played 3 of these, banish it, you're going to have a 6 card hand, it's going to feel fantastic. Compounding Anger could be a 0 for 5, so I do like it a little bit. Is less consistent, so it doesn't get a lot of points for me. Hunt to the Ends of Wraith is interesting. I actually do quite like it because it marks Arachne, but it doesn't really make it into CC, does it? March of Loyalty, if you create a fealty token, this gets go again. I do quite like that. I think it could be quite good. I think it gets a 3 because I don't know how consistent it's going to be. But I could easily see like consistently making fealty and using that. So I could see it slotting in maybe into some CC decks. Bubble to the Surface. Basically get the next red card from your deck. I don't really like this in either because you could just play another red card in its place. Drop of Dragon Blood is good. It's great, actually. It's an instant, so you don't have to break the chain link. I could see this fitting into Constructed as well. Just draw a card and gain 1, so it could be very, very useful. Gain a resource for free and draw a card is really good. Hello. Draconic attacks get +1 this turn. Is a worse Uprising, which doesn't see play and probably won't see play. You'd rather just have a 0 for 3, right? So I don't rate that particularly highly in either. Blaze Headlong is just a 5 out of 5. Mr. Hedgehog. I mean, it's a 0 for 4. Go again. If you played a red card, you will have played a red card in these classes. If this attacks a marked hero, create a fealty token. I really like this series of cards. They're all of them reasonably effective. And they all give you fealty, which is useful for the heroes. I like this one the most. I'm going to give that a 5, and I could even see it cropping up into CC a little bit. I think it just goes 5, 4, 3. I think the more expensive they are, the harder they are to play. So they're less keen and exciting. Oh, the dog is coming up again. Let me change this camera so you can see her. Okay. In CC, they probably don't come up at all, really. Don't lick the microphone, please, Doodle. That's not appropriate. Her name is Dashi, by the way. It's not Doodle. Doodle's just her nickname. Hunt the Hunter. If you played another red card, mark. I really like this because it's basically just guaranteed mark. I think it's actually a 5 because I think you can play a red card quite consistently. I think Arachne's really going to like it. I think this one cost is fine. Smoke Out is a 0 defense reaction, 0 for 3. I actually think that's pretty good as well because there's so many red cards going to be flying around this set. Blessing of Vincerikai, I can see why it could be good, but I just don't really like. Sorry, I don't know if either of these make it in. They could if your deck is struggling to find mark, right? You could just have this in, and then you've got your guaranteed marks, which could be quite good. Blessing of Vincerikai, I don't rate it that highly. I know why this effect is good, but I just don't really like it that much. Pledge Fealty, yeah, like, I don't know. Probably not for all of these, right? You know, this is like mark. This is the thing is what they're good at is like guaranteed mark and guaranteed fealty, right? But you probably want to be playing a card that gives you those effects as a bonus rather than being the only thing that those cards do, right? Let's just be honest about that. So probably not that good. Tooth of the Dragon is fine. It's not particularly exciting. I don't think it makes it into CC at all. All right, we're almost through. Bloodspattered Vest is really good. That's just 5 out of 5. That just is a really, really good card. The Leapfrogs are also actually all really good as well. In Limited, of course, they don't make it into CC. Danger Digits is also quite good. I don't rate it as highly as the ones that block, but I think this is actually also a really good card, just for getting that extra chip of damage through. Again, not making it into CC, but that's fine. Pain in the Backside is great. It's a 0 for 2. You throw your dagger at them, but the dagger doesn't blow up, so it's actually just a 0 for 4. So I think that's actually really good, and I think it will show up in CC as well. Throw Dagger is you throw the dagger. If the dagger hits, and you draw a card. So this is a 0 for 3 that throws your dagger, destroys it, and lets you draw a card. We've already kind of explained why throwing the dagger is useful, because it lets you rebuild the daggers, basically, rebuy them. So again, also like 5 out of 5, maybe like 4, maybe like 4 out of 5. But I think drawing a card is just so good. If you've hit with a dagger, this gets +1 and go again. Also a really good card. Gets a little worse. Probably not playable too much in blue or yellow, but it's quite good. I think also, out you go, Dash. Come on, get out. I also think in CC, this is the sort of card that could potentially see play, just because it is a 0 for 4 when you're throwing it around. Though I think not being Draconic probably keeps it out of Ninja, and I don't think either of the blues see play. Up Sticks and Run is actually really good. Like, I'm going to give it a 4, and maybe even like a 3 and a 2. I feel like it's 0 for +4, and you get to get your dagger back if you've already thrown it, which is just going to be such a consistent. So it could end up being a 0 for 5 or a 1 for 4, right? Or a 1 for 5, because you're going to bring back your dagger and then you're going to attack with it. It could just be really good. And obviously, if you've got an effect on that dagger in Assassin, or you've got the mark that's going to come through or something like that, it could just be a really powerful effect. You might even make it into CC. I'm not really sure. I could see it coming into CC, potentially even in blue, like not necessarily in yellow, but in blue. Just as like, you know, here's my card that I can play that's going to actually be quite cost effective. And the same kind of applies to Pick Up the Point, where you're like getting a dagger back is quite valuable. I think I prefer it on an attack, on an action, than necessarily an attack action, but you know, attack action density in Ninja is quite good. So I think we could probably rate that. I don't think it makes it into CC as easily, but I think it could. But I like it in draft. I think that's a pretty good card. Poison Blade, it's this 1 for 3 go again, which I already don't like. The effect is quite good, though. I mean, the effect is quite good, and one of the things that's interesting is it's quite good across the colors. I don't think it makes it into CC, but I think it's quite good in draft, just because we're looking at loads of ways of throwing your daggers at people, and if you can do something like Poison Blade into throw dagger or into any of the effects that chuck your dagger, suddenly you're looking at, okay, 1 damage from the dagger, 1 life loss. Again, that threshold at which they're safe from you is moving all the time, and they don't know. So when you get into late game, they're on the back foot and you're feeling safe. Throw yourself at them is worse than a lot of the other cards. It's probably something you draft to fill in the gaps. I don't think it's particularly good. Probably doesn't make it into CC. Lair of the Spider is actually quite good as a defense reaction. It's a trap, and it gives you mark, which you can then use on your turn. So I actually rate that quite highly. And I could even see it sneaking into CC if mark proves to be very necessary. The Red Alert Visors, again, a lot of the equipment in this set is really good. It's just like maximum sort of block value, right? Destroy this, target attack action gets go again. Yeah, that's really good as well. Assassin Warrior cards. Perforate, dagger an additional time. Its attacks cost you 1 less. Draw a card. I mean, that's great. Just get that 5. None of these are making it into CC. Let's just be honest about that. Perforate is one thing about starting point, just as a point in terms of wouldn't make it into CC. The ability to give any attack with no cost restrictions go again, as long as you played a reaction, might see play. It's not guaranteed. We have a lot of good boots now, but that's not actually a bad attack. Perforate's good. Feels like a 5 out of 5. Saber Bloodshed, marked hero, draw a card. That's probably 5 out of 5. A lot of these Majestics are just straight 5 out of 5 Majestics. To the Point, 0 for 3, that turns into 0 for 4 if it's marked. that's like got to be a 4-3-2 kind of vibe. Because I mean, it's a 0 for 3, even as a blue. That might even rate higher. I could see that effect making it into CC, to be honest. A 0 for 3 that blocks 2, maybe that doesn't. But, you know, in draft, it is good. As a 0 for 4, it could be good. Cut from the same cloth, target opposing hero reveals their hand. If an attack reaction is revealed, mark them. Again, like, I'm rating the mark plus cards quite highly, just because I feel like there is a lot of value in marking in itself, and I feel like that gets you a lot of value. It doesn't make it into CC because, like, you're not going to guarantee you're playing against someone who even has attack reactions, but you could put it into against someone like Nu, for example, and then you just get free marking on them. Incision is a worse version of a lot of other effects that we've had. You notice I often do like 3-1-2. I just rate yellow slightly less because you can't pitch them. Whereas you play a 0 for 1 blue that blocks 3. Not great. Probably doesn't make it into CC. It could if you need dagger bonuses, but you're probably not taking that. Scar tissue, slightly better. Kind of like 2-2 because I like how it mounts. Again, don't think it makes it into CC, but still alright. Take a stab. Target dagger attack is +3 when it hits them out hero you attack. I think attacking additional times is actually kind of valuable, and I could see that effect making it into CC. Den of the Spider, when this defends an attack with greater than base, mark attacking hero. I think free mark is really good, especially in a set full of attack reactions. Might make it into CC as a way to guarantee mark, but it's like, do you know they're playing buffs, right? That's the problem with it. Quick dodge flex swords is just a 5. Like, it's just a 5. This is you know, pay 1, add it, it blocks 2. You can use it as many times that turn as you want. That was confirmed by Josh Scott. So if you pitch 3, this can be a 1 block 6 in 1 turn. Then of course it gets destroyed, but most equipments do not block 6. The blade beckoners are like kind of the worst of the equipment. Which makes sense because they're generic. They still block 1. They're still worth drafting. But, you know, it's +1 with defending weapon attack, so you can block piercing. Not that exciting. Bunker Beard is a little bit better because actually you can defend from your arsenal, which could be kind of relevant. I quite like it. Rod of Remains is a funny card. Yeah, a funny card. Can be a 0 for 3 from blue. I don't think it's going anywhere, but it's fun. Shelter from the Storm is just 5 out of 5. Not even a question. It's a 0 for 4 defense reaction, and it has another ability. That's just great. Dual Threat is like 4 out of 4. It's like really good in certain decks, but it could whiff. Pursuit to the Edge of Oblivion is like 4. It's just good. It's a 0 for 4 that can give you mark. Probably doesn't make it into constructed, but it's good. This is worse because it costs something and it doesn't go over the breakpoints. That's probably a 2 and a 1. Like, Sound the Alarm is actually really good, but it's kind of niche, so it doesn't get as many points. But I think there's so many defense attack reactions in the set that actually it's a free card draw. Oh no, it goes on the top. But it's a free guarantee to help you stop defense reactions, right? To stop attack reactions, which is great. Racer Reflex is sometimes good in constructed. Imperial Seal of Command is like destroy. Defense reaction can't be played if you're royal. This is actually a really good card. Not in limited. I don't know if you take this in limited. Maybe you would. It's like all right as Arsenal Destruction, but I actually think it's a solid like 4. I would put this in a Syndra deck, for example, because it's Arsenal Destruction. And you will have off turns in that deck. Relentless Pursuit is good against anti-fatigue. I'm not sure if it's any good. I don't think it makes it into constructed. The logic just being that, like, I want to do something. The logic in a lot of these cards is I want to do something that marks and gives me something else. Like, give me +4 to my attack and mark if it hits. I don't just want to be marked. But, that being said, guaranteeing it is interesting. It is useful. There may be decks that will need to guarantee the mark. Calming Breeze is a good tech card, but it doesn't make it deconstructed. Sigil of Solace, let's just put 5 there, 5 there. Really good. Tip Off, again, I like it more than, say, Relentless Pursuit because of the modality of it, right? So, yes, it can mark as an instant, but it also can be used as an attack, so you can choose when to do it. So that actually gets a 3, doesn't make it into constructed. This is still good. This is terrible because it's a 3 attack as a blue. Outed, like, it's a 0 for 4, which could be good, but you can't play it if you're marked, so it gets like a 2 or a 3. Doesn't make it into constructed. Lay Low, again, it's a restriction on playing. It's good. It's a good card. The problem is it has a restriction on you playing it, which makes it worse. So I could see you drafting it, but I think it's a bit of a problem. But that being said, whether you are marked is actually quite controllable, unless your opponent does it with their last action, because you can always take damage from their attack. So, it's not terrible. Exposed is all right. It's +1. Don't think it makes it in. Put in context is bad. Let's just say that. Well, it's a defense reaction though, so maybe it is worth it. Doesn't make it into CC. Nip at the heels is bad. Because it just says target attack with 3 or fewer gets +1. That's not great. Trot Along gives Go Again. That's all right, actually, just in context of needing it. Again, none of these are CC cards. These are all draft cards. Mark Opposing Hero and give +3. See, that's what I mean in terms of being better than just marking. Not really worth it at either of the other colors, but it's still better than just marking, right? Doesn't make it into CC though. I mean, just maybe this one does, but the others don't. Then we have the other cards, which obviously don't have a limited ranking because none of these are limited cards. This is bad. I don't understand what they were thinking. It has a cost. It's not okay. It can block for 6. It's not terrible, but it's not the attack that Brute needed. Guardian Legs, which is a kick in the teeth because obviously you give Guardian good legs when they print this, which is the best Guardian legs you're ever going to have. But Seismic Surge Synergy is quite good. Decent. Blocks 2. Rolling Fissures. Rolling Fissures is like good tech card, but it doesn't really see where it fits yet. Retrace the Past is actually quite good. It lets you actually do Katsu combo. Doesn't bring Katsu back into the game, but it's good for Katsu. Misfire Dampener is good against Kano and confusing against anyone else. I love the art though, by the way. Jesus Christ, this art is fantastic. Null, Time Zone, 2 Steam counters. Destroy this unless you remove a Steam counter. Name a card, pitched or played. I can see why it's good. I think it's too weird to see play in Fab. I think this is a magic card, but it's not. Doesn't stick around enough. Destroy this, prevent the next 1 arcane damage that will be dealt to you this turn. Face up arrow, prevent the next 2. So again, good versus Kano. Do they not want Kano to live in Legend? But I don't think particularly good. When this defends an attack with Go Again, you may turn a non-attack action card in your arsenal face up. If you do, you may play it this turn as though it were an instant. Yeah, that's interesting. I think that could actually be quite good. I'm thinking of 3 of a kind, for example, or something on your opponent's turn, like a Codex, for example, to disrupt their play patterns. That could be really good. Douse in Runeblood, 1 for 4. When this creates, create a number of rune chant tokens equal to the number of non-attacks you play this turn. If 3 or more are created this way, this gets Go Again. That's a bit tricky. Like, how are you playing 3 non-attack actions consistently? I love the art, but I don't know about that one. It's like, how are you going to be playing 3 non-attacks consistently to get the ability? Though, I mean, even if you don't, then it's a 1 for 4 and makes like 2 rune chants, which isn't terrible. It's interesting. I'm giving this card a 1. It's bad. It was bad when he came up with the idea. Each hero secretly chooses a number between 1 and 6. They're revealed. The person that chose the highest number loses that much life. Search the deck for a card with cost less than it, puts it in the hand and shuffles. If your opponent plays this into you, the correct answer is to always bid 6. Because if they do, you lose 6 life and then draw a card. It is a bit interesting at lower life where you can't bid 6, but then you just bid 1, and then they lose 5 life, right? So they shouldn't have printed this card. I'm all for players having the ability to integrate with and design abilities. This card is not that. This card is someone's bad idea, and no offense to Brody, but an illustration of the fact that players do not necessarily make good game designers. It's a bad card. It's too complicated. It could be it could win a game, and if it does, it will make the opponent feel like it is the worst game of Flesh and Blood they have ever lost. And if you play it, it is a negative to you because your opponent might draw a card. But if you guess right, then you get the card you want from your deck. This ability has no place in Flesh and Blood. It's dumb, it's stupid, it does not make sense. Brody's idea was confusing when he said it. I thought it was bad. And then the fact that they've actually gone through and designed a card around that idea and put it in the game is bad, right? The other card from that tournament was, I think it was Pudding Tam, Retrace the Past. This is great. Or was it? No, it was the 0 for 4. It was the other one. If the last stat was a Gust Wave, this is Go Again. That's fine. It's a 0 for 4 with Go Again. Right? I have no idea why this was printed. It's either crazily busted, which it's not, or it's useless. And people are going to feel bad for opening this card, or they're going to try and play it, and it's going to feel bad. But someone is going to lose to it at a critical point at some point, and is just going to feel horrible for themselves. I'm just putting it out there. And, I'm glad it's chaos locked. You know how many chaos cards are in here? There is a grand total of 1. It kind of feels like the whole chaos talent was designed just to keep this card from being played too much. And I think that's a crazy amount of impact to put 1 card into the game. Just delete it. It shouldn't have existed. Just say, I'm sorry, Brody, you shouldn't have said that idea. We'll come up with something more interesting together. You don't have to print the idea he comes up with, because this is not balanced in any way. It's not fun. It's just dumb. Ring of Roses is cool. This is really good. I don't like the fact that it's legendary. I feel like by the time you draw it, it's going to be too late. It's always going to be too late. But I would have loved if it was you can play 3 but only have 1 in play. So you'll draw it early on, but you can only play 1. That would have been really good. It's a really powerful card. It gets a 5. It definitely goes into Verdance, and it will have a huge impact on some games when it's drawn. But I don't know. It just feels it's too strong for a 3 of. It's too weak for a 1 of. It's kind of a bit weird. Warcry of Themis. It's all right. Yeah, it's good against Vincent. I don't know if you really need it, but it's all right. Yeah. Warcry of Bellona is quite good. No, it's not. +2 for your weapon. That's good. That's fine. It stops weapon attacks. It's just too niche. It's not good. Cull 0. You play this in your battle zone. You may play it as an instant. Each hero banishes a card from their hand. It's actually quite good, to be honest. It kind of feels a little bit of a niche. And then we have Command and Conquer, which is getting a 1 because, can I just say, to finish off this rant, for anyone who is still listening, you can tell that I'm tired. Why? Why is this a legendary? Right? What? No. Why is this a legendary? Just bear with me for a second. Cheapest Command and Conquer on card market at the moment. There are 142 available, which indicates that there is stock, though a lot of them are not in English, which people do care about in Europe. 140 available, none in the UK. Just to point that out. By the way, one of the largest markets for Fab in the European continent. There are none available in the UK. Or if there are, I bet they're going to be for £70, right? And none of these are selling because the people who have them, people who can't, how do I put this? People who need these because they're starting the game now can't afford them because it's £180 for a playset. People who have them aren't selling them. Not to mention, of course, that new players don't necessarily want them in a foreign language. New players want the other version, New players want the English version, which is even more expensive, which I think the cheapest one is about 75. Yeah, maybe 75. Not to mention the cheapest one in the UK is £90. Like, this card needs a reprint. This card categorically needs a reprint, and it's not... I hate to be rude, but it's not a legendary. This is not a legendary. This is not a card that needs to be reprinted at legendary. You reprint a legendary, that's great. Now it's worth 20 quid when it was worth 80 quid. Suddenly new players can buy it. It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense to reprint Braveforge Bracers, Valiant Dynamo. Hell, they could have added Mask of Momentum as well. That would have been fine. Command and Conquer is something that I would say any player who's interested in playing competitive Flesh and Blood needs 3 of. Right? They may not go into every deck. They might be on the sideboard. You need to have access to 3 of them. That's not like me talking off the cuff or being, facetious. This is one of the most powerful effects in the game and one of the most powerful cards in the game. I've been saying for 2 years this card needs a reprint because £70 is too damn expensive for a card that is a generic staple. Now, class cards are different. Now, don't get me wrong, class cards are different, though Codex of Frailty also desperately needs a reprint. There's the second set with an assassin that has come out in the last 2 years, and one of the best cards in that class is £50 a card. The fact this hasn't been reprinted just baffles my absolute goddamn mind. Right? I really just don't understand. And we had a new player who came into the UK Discord earlier this week, and he was saying, I got kind of confused. He said, I started the game. I bought a box of Mistveil and a box of Rosetta. I went through the box of Rosetta and I didn't feel like I was that close to building a deck because there are 4 heroes and I didn't really get that much for the heroes. But I opened Mask of Recurring Nightmares, so I thought, okay, let's play new. And he's one of the players that we want, right? So he's coming from Magic. He understands TCGs. He understands competition. He understands that a TCG deck isn't like 50 quid. It's 100 quid. It's a little bit more. He's going to have to shell out a little bit of money to get the deck that he wants and to get into the game. So that new player is coming. He's one of the people we want. He's established in the TCG market. He has a budget. He has a budget that's reasonable for a TCG, a couple hundred quid, to get started in competitive fab. And he opens a booster box of the latest set. Right, one of the latest sets. Second set that just came out. He opens cards that indicate to him he should play a certain hero. And then as a competitive player, he thinks, okay, let's go and look at the best decks that have been winning with this hero. What are the power cards? How do I get them? And then he runs into a wall because one of the most powerful cards for a class that came in the third set ago and the latest set is £70 each. Putting CNC to one side, that needs a reprint. That's not even a joke. That's like, honestly, actually, and I'm gonna timestamp this specific rant. The fact that they have reprinted this at Legendary is actually more insulting to the Fab card base than the fact that it's been reprinted. Right? Now, I may be wrong, and if I am, I'll eat. I'm not going to promise I'm going to eat a card. That's disgusting. But, my point is, I'll eat my words and I'll apologize. But this Legendary is not going to affect the price the way it needs to. Like, a short printed Majestic might do it, but to be honest, the card is already £70. Chuck open the goddamn floodgates. Open the floodgates, just let CNC be cheaper. And okay, I'm sorry that you paid £70 for your CNC, but guess what? New players can now start the game without having to buy a £70 card that's a generic to fuel their deck. And while you're at it, do not print another damn set that has an assassin in without reprinting Codex of Frailty. Like, just don't do it. You're being actually dumb at this point. And I'll say that to you, LSS. I don't, I'll be honest. Not reprinting Codex of Frailty is stupid. It's just absolutely stupid. Not reprinting Command and Conquer in a way that will actually meaningfully move the needle, and if it does, obviously I'll apologise, is stupid. Codex of Frailty cannot be £60. It is a dual class card. Those normally go for like a £5 or a £10. It needs to be reprinted. It sorely needs to be reprinted. Command and Conquer is exactly the same. The cap for what a Majestic should be in this game, anything you need a playset of 3 of, should be around £20. And if it is not 20 quid, then LSS needs to provide more supply. And if they can't manage that, then people will not get into their game. That new player who came into the chat, he said, I almost didn't get into the game because, and this is important, he bought the latest set. He was signposted towards getting into Assassin. Just like loads of people who are going to be coming into the game in Hunted. They're going to see Arachne. They're going to be like, Assassin looks awesome. I want to get into that. And I want to be competitive because TCGs are about being competitive. Fab is a competitive TCG where it feels good to win. It's part of the core design of the game. Play the game, see the world, try and win. And then they're going to say, oh, I thought Arachne was really cool, but I can't afford Command and Conquer. I can't afford Codex of Frailty. I can't afford the older legendaries that haven't been reprinted yet. And then they're going to say, okay, the cost of the deck that I want, the cost of the game, even if they came in with a reasonable budget, right? And we'll assume that reasonable budget is like, a couple £100, expected, right? Expected. It's expected to get into a card game, you're going to drop 50, 60, 100, 150 pounds, right? And then they go to new. Okay, Spring Tunic, that's in there. That costs £100. Okay, cool. Price is going up. Good. Mask of Recurring Nightmares, 40 quid. Okay, so we're at 140. Leave No Witnesses is £20 each in the UK, so 60. We're over 200 now. And this hasn't even totaled up the cost of other cards that are on this list. So we could look at something like Surgical Extraction. That's probably, I think it's dropped a bit, but I think it's still up above where it was before. But it dropped after the reprint. Okay, that's down to 4. That was 20 at one point, so you'll forgive me for being confused. You've got Codex, obviously, which is 100% in this list, which, we've already looked at. So that's adding an extra 150 to the deck. I'm sure you've got Command and Conquer in here. Yeah, 100%. So that starts to add up. What other powerful, expensive cards are there? Levels of Enlightenment. What's that at these days? It was at 20 quid on release. I bet it's cheaper now. Nope, still at £15. So that's 45. That's down. I think you're beginning to see my point, though. You have been pointed in the direction by a very recent set on how to play it, but due to the reprint policy, you cannot afford to play. Needs to be reprinted. Could do with a reprint, not super critical. But it's £18. Is on my watch list for being reprinted, right? Fine. Needs to be reprinted. Not even in this art treatment, just in the regular one. Fine. Yeah, fine now. That's it. Rant over. If you agree or disagree with my rant, let me know. If I'm stupid for calling LSS stupid, then call me out. I don't mind. We can talk about it in my comments. But I think it's not a crazy statement to say that we've had 3 sets just come out, the last 3 sets, 2 of them have had Assassins in, and an Assassin staple powerhouse card is £60 and hasn't been reprinted in either of those 2 sets. That's not a crazy thing to say. That is, from all my years of TCG experience, that is mismanagement. That is failure to provide adequate supply to meet the demand expected by your consumers. And the knock-on effects of those, taking the emotion out of it, the knock-on effects of those decisions are people who would get into the game being turned off by the price, or people who would like to play that class feeling like they can't, or that class not living legending fast enough because people can't pick it up because they can't afford the card. All these different things are knock-on effects of that card being too expensive, but ultimately that card is too expensive and needs to be reprinted. The fact that we've had 2 sets with that class in means that the problem of it needing to be reprinted is acute, because new players are showing up, opening cards that say, hey, you should like Assassin, and not being able to buy that card. Command and Conquer is also just an illustration of that card needing to be, of a card that needs to be reprinted, but the difference is that that's generic, right? So every player gets pointed to needing Command and Conquer at some point, which is why reprinting it is more urgent. We're happy to see it reprinted, but as a legendary, is it going to do enough? I don't think it is. With that, I'm going to leave you. It's a really long episode. I just wanted to really deep dive into spoilers and my thoughts on them. I'm really looking forward to Hunted, to be honest. I'm really looking forward to Hunted and to Syndra. She looks like a really fun deck, and I'm going to enjoy playing Ninja again. And just as a final finishing note, I can't play Assassin, right? I have a budget for Fab, and I've talked about it plenty of times, about how much money I'm going to spend. And I sold out of Assassin specifically because if I sold out of Assassin and sold my codexes and my Leave No Witnesses and all of that stuff, I could buy 2 other classes worth of cards. So selling out of Assassin meant that I could actually keep Wizard and Runeblade on my docket instead of selling one of them. I was going to sell Wizard or Runeblade, and then I sold out of Assassin instead and Illusionist, and then I was like, actually, I can afford to keep these 2 classes instead within my Fab budget. And then I thought, ooh, Arachne looks really fun, as I should do, because I'm reviewing the spoilers, and I'm looking at all these previews, and I'm looking at the Arachne ones, and I'm thinking, Arachne looks really fun. I would love to play Arachne. And then I looked at the price of Codex, and it's gone up from when I sold it. I looked at the price of Leave No Witnesses, which used to be a $5 and has gone up from when I sold it. And I looked at the price of the Legendaries, and I said, do you know what? Maybe I'll play Arachne on Talishar a bit. And I've left it at that. So that's the effect that has on the game. These cards need to be reprinted. And they've missed their window. The window to reprint Codex was in the set with the Assassins in. Is that a dumb thing to say? I don't think so. Let me know your thoughts. I'll speak to you all very, very soon. Have a great day.